Can you hear me? Is this thing on? Can you hear me? What's up? Welcome back to another special edition of we're going to call this Cape Cod Cohn Zone, presented by Prize Picks. I'm Grant Cohn. I'm wearing my Boston hat, but I'm not in Boston. I'm in Cape Cod, somewhere on this. It's not a peninsula, it's a cape. And I got the bay behind me, not the ocean. And there are no waves. It's a giant body of water with no waves, which is deep in a sense. So I'm going to talk about the Niners, the best and the worst, the greatest hits, the worst hits of the last 10 years, sort of paint the picture as to how we got here. But that's going to be a little bit later. I'm also going to talk about Brandon Ayuk doing nothing because I think that's so interesting, a deep dive into nothing. But first, we have breaking news, everyone. A 49ers legend has retired. And I think it's important that we give him his due. Maybe this has flown under the radar, but talk about the best things the Niners have done over the last 10 years. How about drafting this guy? How about bringing this guy back into the fold? Not necessarily for what he did on the field, but his immeasurable impact off the field, in the locker room. I mean, I'm in the locker room. You guys aren't. I sort of see what this person did on a day-to-day basis to keep some of the best players in franchise history on their toes. I'm talking George Kittle, the George Kittles of the world. You know what I'm saying? The Deebo Samuels of the world. No. Trent Taylor is calling it a career, which is crazy considering, I mean, he's not that old, but he's done. I guess he has other passions to pursue. I know what you might be thinking. Trent Taylor was on the 49ers. Yes, they drafted him, and he was like back-to-back offseason MVP, the toe tap king. Produced a little bit as a rookie. But then, injuries and being 5'7" caught up with him. Went over to the Bengals, turned some punts, but came back to the Niners. Caught one pass in his second stint with the 49ers. Last year was mostly on IR. But again, every day in the locker room, keeping the culture what it is. You want to talk about best ping pong players in franchise history. You can't have that conversation without mentioning Trent Taylor. I'm talking, first of all, he's a lefty. So he has this killer forehand, but he also has a great backhand. He can serve, he can return. And he's kind of, low to the ground. So he's got like good eye level. He can really see the shots as they're coming and set one after another up, really. He was definitely the best ping pong player on the team. And then when it came to 3-point shooting in the locker room, I would say he's in the running for best shooter on the team. He didn't really, he's a little bit of a jump shot. He was sort of jump past the line. I think he's getting 5'7". He needed to generate some momentum, but kind of looked like Nate Robinson out there, lefty, good stroke. He could do a lot of different things. Football was good in college, but I think what he'll go down for is being one of the best friends for George Kittle of all time and having really good at all the different locker room games, which is a part of competition. You know what I mean? He sets the tone for that daily competition. And it's going to be too bad that he won't be there, having time with the trainers and using up the different perks that the players get because he needs them. But now he's gone. And we'll always remember the Trent Taylor, the first Trent Taylor era, the second Trent Taylor era. It's good that the Niners are a family and keep players like Trent around. It's just sad to see him go. I thought Kyle Juszczyk might go with him. Thank God he won't. Juszczyk, we got one more year of that. But it was always nice to see Trent Taylor going to Cabo, showing up. It's like no amount of not playing would deter him from being in the picture or, using the facilities. And I like that because I think that's something that we all can relate to. And I want to be that good at ping pong too. So salute to Trent Taylor. T squared, as I call him. The original Trent. Trent Williams, eat your heart out. Trent Taylor was first. Number 81, and then number 15. Went to Louisiana Tech. Was a tennis player at one point in his life. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's talk Brock Purdy, and then I'm going to get into Brandon Ayuk in a minute. Brock Purdy has a problem, and it's the Seattle Seahawks. And it might be Kyle Shanahan. The thing about Kyle is he's had a lot of success with a lot of different quarterbacks, but he's never had sustained success with anyone. Now, maybe he hasn't been around long enough, but like he had one great year with Matt Ryan and then dipped. He had one great year with Robert Griffin, and then Griffin got hurt. He had like 5 or 6 great games with Jimmy Garoppolo, and then he got hurt and was never great again. He had one great year with Brock Purdy in 2023. The end of 2022, in addition, hasn't been able to replicate that. And so Brock's a hell of a quarterback, but someone has to account for his last 2 games against the Seahawks. It seems like every time Mike McDonald gets exposed to Kyle Shanahan further, Brock Purdy does worse. Or maybe it's the other way around. The more he gets exposed to Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan does worse. But here's Brock's numbers in the last 2 games against the Seahawks. This was like within a 2-week span, 3-week span. 34-54, 63%. 267 yards in 2 games. 4.9 yards per pass attempt. No touchdowns. 2 picks. 1 fumble lost. 5 sacks. 59.5 passer rating. So that's really bad. And in retrospect, there's a lot of reasons the Niners lost those games. But it wasn't the defense's fault. In the first one, they lost 13-3. They lost because their offense scored 3 points. You can't have your quarterback playing like that. And then in the second game, it was a total failure from special teams to defense to offense. It was over immediately when Rashid Shaheed returned that kickoff. But I'm telling you, if something happens to the Niners this year and they miss the playoffs or they fall short of whatever their expectations are, and Brock Purdy has a good season against the Cardinals, but struggles again against the Seahawks. We saw this with Colin Kaepernick. Same thing happened. He did progressively worse every time he faced that Pete Carroll Legion of Boom defense, and the Niners eventually felt like, well, they held they held Jim Harbaugh responsible, really, right? Like they held on to Kaepernick and tried to make it work with different coaches, Chip Kelly, but eventually being unable to get past the Seahawks cost a lot of people their job. And my question is, who do you blame for those awful numbers? Is it Brock's fault? Is it Kyle's fault? I know you think I'm going to say it's Brock's fault, but I don't know. I think there could be evidence that it's Kyle's fault too. I mean, remember Bill Walsh would say that a quarterback defines the limit of his offense. Isn't the inverse true? Doesn't the play caller define the limit of a quarterback? And I think that with Kyle, we've seen that he can raise the floor for he can help a quarterback like Brock or Darnold or Mac Jones. He's so much better than a guy like Doug Peterson or Matt Patricia as a play caller. But over time, as he gets more exposed to really good defensive coordinators who see Kyle calling plays for a specific quarterback, it seems like he gets figured out, and eventually the quarterback gets blamed for it. But what did Kyle really do to help Brock against the Seahawks last year? I mean, it seems like what the Seahawks do on defense, what they're aiming to do is shut down your run game with a nickel defense and a light box. They were successful. That has nothing to do with Brock. That has everything to do with Kyle. They got to make you one-dimensional, and they do that by playing nickel or dime and a 2-shell defense and a light box and shutting your running game down anyway. And they did it. That has nothing to do with Brock. And then the other thing is they want to rotate their coverages post-snap and take away your first read, confuse the quarterback just long enough to make him hitch and go to his second and third reads, which allows their good but not great pass rush, which depends on stunts and twists in games, to get home. That's their defense. It's not the most revolutionary. It's not tricking you. It just has these core principles that they're aiming to achieve. And when they do, they own you. And I don't see what Kyle has done to combat those things. Those things are out of Brock's control. I mean, when he goes into Seattle and faces that team, he's got a one-dimensional offense, no run game, no play action pass. That has nothing to do with him. Kyle didn't do anything to address that. They still have the same running back. I don't believe that Jordan James and Kalen Black are going to be factors in the game at all while McCaffrey's healthy. He could be averaging 2 yards a carry. He's not coming off the field. The offensive line's worse than it was last year. Only difference is Mike Evans. So what is Mike Evans going to signal that's different about Kyle's scheme? Because the issue to me is the system. It doesn't work against Mike Macdonald. Mike Macdonald, all the weaknesses that Kyle's system exploits, they're not there for Mike Macdonald's defense. And so you got Brock Purdy out there playing, putting up horrible numbers, taking the blame, turning the ball over. And ultimately, it's his fault when the ball gets turned over. It's not like Kyle turned it over. But still, this could happen this year where Brock has really good games against the Cardinals and the teams he's supposed to play well against. But when it's time to come to face Mike Macdonald, it's bad. It's worse than it was last year because, again, the system hasn't changed. It's a system issue. That's how I feel. And I know, the fact that Mac Jones played well last year made it seem like, damn, well, Brock's a system quarterback. If Mac Jones can do it, then, damn, who can't play well in this system? But I think part of the reason Mac Jones played well is part of the reason Brock played well early in this system, and Jimmy played well early in this system, and everyone except Trey Lance plays well right away in this system because they don't know the tendencies yet. They don't know Kyle's play calling tendencies yet with this quarterback. So there's mystery. But after a year or two, people sort of know how Kyle wants to call plays for that quarterback, and every time the interceptions pile up and increase and increase and increase every time, and the injuries. That's not a Brock thing. It's a Kyle quarterback thing. And I believe it would have happened to Matt Ryan if Kyle had stuck around in Atlanta for longer. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year. If the Niners fall short, if the Seahawks own them again, is Kyle going to sort of implicitly place the blame on Brock, and will you go for it? Or will it be seen as Kyle's failure? Because, it seems to me that the Niners are more invested in Brock than Kyle. Brock signed for longer. Kyle hasn't gotten that extension that he usually gets with about 3 years left on his deal. Kyle was responsible for the Brandon Ayuk extension. Brock didn't do that. Kyle's system worked really great when Christian McCaffrey was in his prime, but now that he's not anymore, it's questionable. Yeah. I think at some point the Niners might have to choose between these guys, unless they want to do a hard reset, just get rid of everyone. But I think one of the nice things about having a franchise quarterback is that you can attract other good coaches. If Brock Purdy is as good as you guys think he is, then you could get rid of Kyle and bring in, someone like a Ben Johnson or the next up and coming offensive coach. And he might want to coach Brock Purdy if he's more than just a Kyle Shanahan guy. Otherwise, how do you explain Brock's awful numbers against the Seahawks the last 2 games? Just a fluke? Is it all Juwan Jennings' fault? Is it going to be better this year? If it's not, is that Brock's fault? Is that Kyle's fault? I'm leaning Kyle. I like Brock. I think Brock's a really good quarterback, and a lot of what makes him good, and I think why people are high on him, is because it's easy to see him make plays that have nothing to do with Kyle. We haven't seen him have success without Kyle in the NFL, but we've seen him do things that have nothing to do with Shanahan's system. And it might be interesting to see what Brock could do in a different system where defensive coordinators don't have the book on it and don't know exactly how the play caller is going to use him. It might be also cool to see Brock on a team that values an offensive line, where he doesn't have to make a guy miss and spin away and hold the ball and play like Caleb Williams all the time. That would be pretty cool. It'd be cool to see Brock Purdy on a team with some weapons who are younger than 33, with some weapons who can stay healthy. That'd be interesting. And I think, you know, again, it's been 10 years of Kyle. We've seen him with multiple quarterbacks, with multiple coordinators. If they ever want to change something, it'd be easier to say, let's bring in a new coach. Let's stick with this quarterback who's 25 years old and was an MVP candidate. Maybe it's the wrong decision, but that's what the Yorks did once upon a time when they had to choose, when they had to do a hard reset with the Harbaugh years. They felt, you know what? Kaepernick's special. And it turns out he really wasn't. He was kind of a product of Harbaugh. And once he left, I really think Kaepernick lost his edge or his whatever drive. But that's what I'm looking for this year. The Kyle Shanahan effect. Jesse Thompson says, do you think Mac would do better against Seattle? No, I don't. I think the issue against Seattle is schematic. I think it has to do with Kyle. I think it has to do with the fact that they can't run the ball. They can't get their first read open. The quarterback has to hold the ball and run around or force it to guys who are not or covered. I think you're set up to fail that way. I do think it's impressive that Mac Jones played so well against the Rams twice. But that's a different system. And ultimately, it's not the team the Niners need to get through. It's the Seahawks. All right, let's do some prize picks. We got some World Cup prize picks tonight. Let's see. World Cup. Goals. Who's playing? Is anyone playing tonight? I don't know. Adrian Rabiot. French guy. Alex Baina. I don't know. Where's Mbappe? There you are. You're going to score. Thank you. I've heard of you, so you're going to score. What about Borja Iglesias? No. Danny Olmo? No. I guess Spain's not scoring, huh? Lamine Yamal? No. Okay, that's enough. I'm going to stop pretending like I know any of those players. Not that I was pretending really well. Giants, where you at? Love this team. Love this team. Hope they can achieve their goal of losing 100 games. Hitter strikeouts. Where are my guys? Willie, thank you for being you. Jung-Hoo, you been striking out? No. Casey Schmidt. Devers. Yeah. You're back. Who else? Ramos? You're my guy. How about that? No, it's not enough. Bryce Eldridge. You're striking out. You're striking out too, man. We're all striking out today. I'll strike out with you. We'll go to Looney Bin together, bro. Flex play, obviously. Putting down $29 and submitting. Boom. Go to app.prizepicks.com or download the PrizePicks app. Use promo code HMA. Play $5. Get 50 instantly in lineups when you use that promo code. True story. If you're just tuning in, yeah, I'm in Cape Cod. The Cape, as they call it out here, because there's only one. All right. So I'm over here waiting for Brandon Ayuk to post more stuff on Instagram because every time he does, I make money. He says he makes money, but I don't think he does because I don't really think you can monetize Instagram like that. The ones you monetize are YouTube, which he doesn't post on enough, and TikTok, which I don't think he's posting on. I feel like he's just doing it for the clout, which is too bad. But I mean, I don't know if he needs the money yet. But anyway, he hasn't posted yet today. In the last few days, the last time he posted, it was like a desperate plea to get Jaden Daniels to call him back. How do I interpret Brandon Ayuk's latest silence? Every time he goes quiet for like 48 hours, I'm like, boom, he just got serious. He's not messing around anymore. He's actually going to take his career into his hands and do something smart. And every time I'm wrong. But I feel like this time, now that he made the big mistake of crossing Jaden Daniels and his mom, and he seems to have understood that he made the mistake in the sense that he's been trying to reach out to Jaden Daniels and Jaden won't answer the phone. And so Brandon went to social media to like send out the bat signal to get him. I think Brandon gets it at this point. But again, I've been wrong every step of the way. But I think he realizes he went too far. I think he realizes he needs to make up with Jaden Daniels. I think he feels like he can because I feel like they've probably made up many times before. And Jaden doesn't seem like the kind of guy who he's not like Brandon, where like if you cross him once, you're dead. I feel like Jaden's pretty go with the flow, which is why they get along. Jaden's easygoing. Brandon's not. The issue is the mom. So I don't know. Maybe Brandon's trying to. Maybe there's some stipulations. Because what did Brandon say last week? Like, oh, Jaden called me, and he's gonna say like, it's my team. You got to play by my rules. I.e., shut up if you want to be on the Commanders, right? And that's what that came from Brandon's mouth. He said that. Jaden said that you need to start doing what I want. And Brandon like threw a fit about that for a week. And now all I know is he hasn't spoken in a few days after begging Jaden Daniels to get back to him. So best interpretation, Jaden Daniels got back to him like the stand-up guy he is. You can't just ghost him forever like Brandon Ayuk. He's not like Brandon Ayuk. I bet he got back to him eventually and told him, all right, Brandon, I'm going to tell you what I told you 2 weeks ago. Shut up. You're not going to be on the Commanders if you keep acting like this. I'm not going to vouch for you. In fact, I'm going to tell him not to bring you on. And my mom's going to tell him not to bring you on. Don't need you. So if you post anything on social media, it's going to be about, soccer or nothing. And I feel like that's a very powerful message. Jaden has to deliver it because he's the leader of the team. And Brandon needs to hear it because his career depends upon it. And I don't know. I feel like with these things, deadlines can spur activity. And Brandon can act like a fool as much as he wants, but when the final project is due at the very end, maybe he'll get his shit together and deliver. Maybe that's how he handled business in high school and college. But he still has like 2 weeks to pay the fine and file the paperwork and send the bouquet of flowers to Jaden's mom and tell Jaden he's sorry and be a pro again. And with this much money on the line, he's almost 30 years old. I'd like to think that he has the wherewithal to do it. So I'm still interpreting this as a positive sign for Brandon Ayuk. And I want to say, like, from the Niners perspective, you guys might think, like, who gives a damn? I just think that, again, it's time to let him go, whether he's filed for reinstatement or not, because you wanted to make an example of him. You did. At this point, I don't see how it's benefiting the organization anyway. You could say, well, there's a salary cap benefit. Guys, you got 71 million in cap space. The only reason to hold on to him is to inflict punishment because you're angry. And I understand wanting to do that because you're angry, but you did it. You did it, you did it, you did it, and you pushed him. And look at the response. And it made us laugh, it made us cry. You won. You accomplished what you wanted to do. You got your pound of flesh. He embarrassed himself. You helped him embarrass himself. We all made content about it. Enough. Because you don't want to seem that petty. I know fans would want that, but I just don't think it benefits the organization in any way that doesn't have to do with like primal revenge. And again, I want to stress that the Niners got it. If they were to cut Brandon Ayuk, it's not like he could make a bunch of videos being like, ha, in your face. No. Brandon had like a freaking nervous breakdown. It's not like he skated. Anyway, watch. He probably just posted something really dumb online right now. How about this? I just did a mailbag for SI.com. I like doing mailbags when nothing's really going on. Answer 10 questions. One of the questions was, give me one player in the Niners who should change positions. And I like this question. Players are so, in football, I mean, you only do one thing. Play offense, defense. It's so specialized. And sometimes I feel like these players pick the wrong thing for themselves because certain positions pay more than others. Like Debo should have been a running back, full-time running back. If he had focused on it, could have been great, but make more money at wide receiver. I get that. Eric Armstead, I felt like would have been a Hall of Fame offensive tackle. And little known fact about him, he grew up in Sacramento, played both ways in high school, and was ranked the number one high school player in the country, the number one recruit in the country as an offensive tackle. But he wanted to play defensive tackle instead. Probably more like a more fun position to play, more glamorous position to play. I thought he always should have moved to offense. I feel like Any defensive lineman who's not a pass rusher should probably move to offensive line. There aren't enough athletes on the offensive line. Javon Kinlaw, to me, would be a killer guard. Alfred Collins would be a killer guard. His cousin was Trent Brown, who was a really, really good offensive tackle. So I'm sort of looking like that. But what I would say also, in addition to Alfred Collins is a pretty good D tackle. I think he could, he's a good 2-down D tackle with the same body type. I think he could be a Pro Bowl guard. Maybe I'm wrong. Another guy, this is the main guy I think should change position, and not like from one side of the ball to the other, but Michael Williams. To me, he has no position and needs to change his body type. He's a defensive end in name, but not in practice. Like, he can play that position, but if he's playing D end, you're never going to have an edge rush from that side. And I don't like defenses that sacrifice that for any situation. Why would you only want one edge rusher on the field and then 3 or 4 run defenders when it's a passing league? I don't like that. So to me, there's a reason they move him into defensive tackle. He's like a young Eric Armstead, not quite as tall, but a similar frame. And he weighed like 270 right now, maybe 275, but he was 21 years old. He's 22 years old. I think he has the frame to play at 290 well. And I think he could become a full-time defensive tackle. And I think if he were to do that, put on 20 pounds, not even a muscle, just 20 pounds, he's continue getting stronger, fill out his frame. By the time he's 25, he could be a elite 3-down defensive tackle. Great against the run, double team magnet, pocket pusher. Will he ever go to a Pro Bowl? I don't know. But he could make a lot of money. I think he could make more money as a full-time 290-pound defensive tackle than the 270 tweener that he is. The guy who plays a little bit on the edge, but gives you nothing as a pass rusher, and then plays a little bit in the interior, but gives you not enough as a run defender from that position, and you're always kind of trying to figure out where he should be based on this. Nah. There's one player on the team who I would move. I would say Michael Williams. Michael Williams, a defensive tackle. Alfred Collins to guard or freaking offensive tackle. Upton Stout to free safety. Jake Tonjes to fullback. And Brock Purdy to corner, safety. All right, hold on. Let's get that on the screen, and then let's get this on the screen while I have this wonderful background behind me. Let me remind you that today's show is brought to you by IndaCloud. Nothing says relaxing vacation like spending $2,000 frickin' to be stressed in a different frickin' location. There has to be another way to actually relax, right? Yes, IndaCloud exists. IndaCloud is a fully legal online cannabis dispensary for gummies, exotic flower, premium pre-rolls, zero sugar THC sodas, energy gummies, and extra strength sleep gummies. Everything is federally legal hemp THC, lab tested, and shipped discreetly to your door because summer is already doing the absolute most. So if you're 21 or older, go to indacloud.co, not .com, and use code COHN for 30% off your first subscription order. That's indacloud.co, code COHN for 30% off, delivered routinely and discreetly to your door, plus free gifts and free shipping on qualifying orders. And don't forget to fill out the quick survey when you order to support this show. I won't forget. You don't forget either. Ashley Ariana says, beautiful background, Granty Cakes, signed Lacey. Thank you very much, Lacey. I appreciate it. You should check it out sometime. I'm in Cape Cod. It's in Massachusetts. It's really nice out here. Did you guys know that people from Massachusetts call themselves massholes? I didn't know this. True story. All right. Final things I'm going to talk about, and I'm out of here. I'm going to get back to my luxurious vacation that I didn't really pay for. Best and worst things the Niners have done over the last 10 years. Because it's like, one, how have they had so much, like, how have they won so many games? And two, why haven't they won the Super Bowl? Because if there's one thing Lacey knows I like to talk about is how the Niners just haven't made it enough of a priority to win the Super Bowl. You're not going to win Super Bowl if you don't want to win it. Like, they clearly don't. But so I'm gonna get into the list of things they've done over the last 10 years. It's been a decade of decisions, and some of them have led them to NFC championships and Super Bowls, and some of them have been the reason why they didn't win. So I'm going to start with the bad ones so we can end on a positive note. This was also a question I got in my mailbag today. The question was, which are the biggest Shanahan-Lynch mistakes that have prevented the Niners from winning it all, while two divisional opponents during this period have won the Super Bowl? So here's the full list, and I kind of have it in chronological order. And you guys feel free to jump in and tell me if I got any wrong or if I missed any. Because this is a decade. I have at least 15, maybe 13. Okay. 1, not scouting or drafting Patrick Mahomes in 2017. 2, trading for Jimmy Garoppolo instead of continuing to tank so they could draft Josh Allen. 3, trading DeForest Buckner essentially for Javon Kinlaw when no one told him to do that. 4, not signing Tom Brady in 2020. 5, not trading for Matthew Stafford in 2021. 6, trading 3 first-round picks and a third for Trey Lance, which was one of the worst trades ever in sports. 6, drafting Jake Moody. 7, not knowing the overtime rules in one Super Bowl, allegedly. 8, abandoning the run with a lead in the third quarter of 2 Super Bowls. 9, hiring Nick Sorensen as a defensive coordinator. 10, giving Brandon Ayuk the worst extension of all time, a 4-year, $120 million deal, then voiding his guarantees after 7 games because he got injured and violated a technicality in his contract. I lost count of where I'm at. Not giving Ayuk back his guarantees when he was healthy and could have helped the Niners win a Super Bowl last season. Making Brock Purdy the 6th highest paid player in the NFL. Constantly reaching in the draft, particularly in the early rounds. Training next to a massive electrical substation and hoarding more than $70 million in cap space, which they could be using to make their team better right now. I think that's how you are on the precipice of a championship since the 2019, and you don't win it. You don't get there. I think that's how you do that. Those are the worst things the Niners have done. There's a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? Some bad signings, some awful drafting, some really terrible decisions with the critical moment, with the championship on the line. They did it all. But they've also done some really good things as well. So why don't I say the best things we know the mistakes. Did I miss any? We know the mistakes they've made. But I think it's also important we're not talking about Jim Tomsula and Chip Kelly over here. This is a complicated era with more wins than losses. So how do they do that? Here's my comprehensive list of the best things the Niners have done under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynn. I'm trying to be generous here. I don't want to miss anything. So again, if I miss something, put it in the chat. I'll try to find it. 1, hiring Robert Saleh in 2017 when no one, including me, knew who the hell he was. 2, signing Robbie Gould right off the bat. Special teams freaking matters. He was money for the Niners. 3, drafting George Kittle in 2017. Yeah, they missed on Patrick Mahomes, and they took Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster, but they ended up with a Hall of Fame tight end, one of the best tight ends of all time. That's a good way to start the regime. 4, drafting Fred Warner in 2018, another Hall of Famer. So not the best drafting team ever, but 2 Hall of Famers in their first 2 drafts. It's a good way to start. 1 on offense, 1 on defense. Still the leaders of the team to this day. 3, drafting Nick Bosa. 5, drafting Nick Bosa. 6, drafting Deebo Samuel. Those were important draft picks. Now, the extensions, not so great. Important draft picks. 7, promoting DeMeco Ryans to defensive coordinator after Saleh left. That was genius. Correct. And they groomed him. Is that the right word? 11, drafting Brandon Ayuk. 17, drafting Juwan Jennings. 27, trading for Trent Williams. 37, drafting Brock Purdy. Trading for Christian McCaffrey. Signing Sam Darnold. Rehiring Robert Saleh after firing Nick Sorensen. Signing Mac Jones to a 2-year deal. Signing Eddie Pinheiro. That Eddie Pinheiro signing is one of the most underrated signings. I don't know what they were waiting for. There was that stupid kicker competition between Jake Moody and I don't even remember the guy's name. That's how bad he was. He somehow lost the kicker competition to Moody, even though he beat him by 1, which isn't enough because Anyway, Eddie Pinheiro comes in and kicks like Robbie Gould Two of the best moves they ever made were kicker signings. Kicker matter. You could even put signing Brant Boyer. Hiring Brant Boyer was one of the better moves this organization made. And that explains how they've had so much success. Two genius defensive coordinator hires, drafted 3 really good wide receivers, messed up the relationships with all 3. But 2 Hall of Famers they drafted after round 1. That's helpful considering they just blew so many first-round picks. Trading for Trent Williams, trading for Christian McCaffrey. Those 2, where would the Niners be right now if they hadn't made those 2 deals? Where would Darnold be right now if he'd signed a 2-year deal instead of a 1-year deal with the Niners? That signing Mac Jones last year was genius. And the fact that he's still on the team is a big deal. Otherwise, who would be their backup this year? Curtis Rourke? And I think the fact that they have Mac Jones makes you feel like they can find a way to win at least 10 games no matter what. Because they have 2 quarterbacks who are really good in this system. So that's how you get a flawed, interesting organization that is running out of time to prove that they were anything more than flawed. That's my show. I'm outside. My laptop isn't plugged in, and I have, what do I got? 6% left on my battery. So it's time for me to get the hell up out of here. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm about to go eat a lobster roll. Maybe I'll videotape it. Maybe I'll show you what it's all about. Maybe not. Maybe it's private. Maybe it's between me and me. Take care.